It's Lori here. I'm back to do another What I've Been Loving. So this video will cover January and February. We're right at the tail end of February. I normally do 2 months, especially over the course of the school year because I have less time to devote to entertainment. But I did want to talk about some of the things that I have been watching or enjoying or finishing. So this past 2 months was just a little bit wild. Um, so we had an inauguration for Joe Biden, which was a joy. I love seeing inaugurations. They're always very, very special. This one was super different because of the pandemic, but I had really enjoyed watching that and watching all the coverage around that. There was also a couple of other like things happening that were like politically minded. They also, in the middle of January, started talking heavily about us going back to school. So I was watching a little bit more news than I would have liked to watch, but I wanted to sort of keep my pulse on that because, as you'll see later in this little explanation, we did wind up going back. We actually went back the end of February. This was my first week back in school when I'm filming this. So, that changed a bunch of stuff as well. But I also inputted some new goals and, stuff like that. And I'll talk about that when I get to what I've been watching. But yeah, so, let's get into it. I always say my movie category is less because I don't watch a whole lot of movies. I tend to binge TV shows more than movies, but I did finish two movies in this month. I watched Mulan early in January. That was the new one. I really liked it. I thought it was great. Um, I didn't wind up getting like the premiere access, so I watched it later. I really liked it. I like that Ming Na Wen got a cameo. I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I will always miss the music elements because I love the songs in Mulan, but overall, I thought it was a good movie. And I really liked it. I have pretty simplistic taste, but I thought it was an interesting movie, and I hope they do more in the future. I still have to watch Cinderella. I'll get around to it. But also, I also watched Always and Forever Laura Jean, which is the final movie in the To All the Boys I Loved Before series. That movie I adored. I watched it Valentine's Day weekend. It was great. I also earlier in January finished the book series, so really, really happy with that. I really, really liked it. It was great. It was just a joy. It was just like a warm hug. And I love Noah and the lead actress. I think that they're great, and also all the side characters. So it was super fun, and I'm really happy that I picked that up because it was just a joy. So those are the two movies that I did watch. There are a couple other ones I have my eyes on, but those are the ones that I wound up watching in the first 2 months of the year. So the next section is TV shows that I finished watching. And I do actually have a couple of them. I did do like a TV show catch up because the new seasons were finally coming back. And I had not finished watching The Bold Type. So that was the first one that I finished watching, and I finished watching, I think it's the third season. It actually was recently announced that the next season is going to be the last season, and I had been spoiled about what was the last episode, like what was the last thing for one of the character storylines, and that was, I knew was going to be hard for me to watch, but I did wind up watching it. I really love that show. I know people in um, the writing industry, like in publishing, say that it's not at all realistic, but I love the girls together. It's like my version of Sex in the City. I'll say that. Like, I was not a big Sex in the City fan, but I really do like the characters in that show quite a bit. But I also did wind up finishing that, and then whenever season two or season four, I guess, what comes out, I will watch that. Another thing that I wound up binge watching, because at this point that I binge watch this, and by binge watching, I was trying to listen to an Avatar podcast for the end of Avatar, but because I wasn't commuting and I wasn't going anywhere, I was losing my listening time, and I just was like not watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I was on book 3. So I just sort of like binge watched all of the episodes in like a weekend because I had like 8 episodes left. I really did like the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think probably was my favorite book. I'm actually trying to read the comics before I dive into Korra. But again, I really liked that one. And I just heard, well, two things were revealed, like a little newsy things, that the original Avatar: The Last Airbender creators are leaving the Netflix adaptation, which broke my heart a little bit. And then it was recently announced that those same creators are going to Paramount Plus, and they're going to do some animated TV shows and animated movies set in the Avatar world, which means I'm just going to have to get another streaming service. So, not anytime soon. I'm putting off getting that until I have content to watch, because I just can't do another streaming service at this point. Hulu might have to bite the dust at that point, but we will see. We will see. But yeah, so I did really like it, and I marked the end of that watch by getting some Funkos. I got Sokka, I got Aang, and I got Iroh, so they're on my bookshelf. But the biggest shock out of that whole season was how much my feelings for Zuko changed. At the start of the season, I didn't like Zuko, and by season 3, I was like, I adored Zuko so much. I actually might have to get a Funko for my collection, which I was not planning on getting. But him, the last like 8 episodes, totally changed my mind on Zuko, and I was relatively shocked about that. So that was a show, like a series that I finished. And another series that I finished was Bridgerton. So I'm going to actually put the picture here, but this is the picture of Bridgerton. There's some controversy about the show. I realize that. However, I really liked it. I also read book 1 going into it, so I kind of knew the outline of the show series. And at the time of this filming, I have also read The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is Anthony's book. I have read Offer from a Gentleman, which is Colin's book, and I have read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which is Penelope and Colin's book. So, I really loved the first season of it. I thought it was so unique and really fun. I've got into historical romances super recently. The standout of that show was definitely Eloise and Penelope. The standout to me. And Penelope's book is actually the next. Eloise's book is the next book I'm going to pick up. It's called To Philip with Love. And it's those two characters were the absolute standout. I really enjoyed it. It was so fun. I love the girl that plays Penelope. I saw her do a bunch of interviews on the Kelly Clarkson show, and it was just really fun. Great. And I really liked it. So I really am excited for season 2. I know there are some problems with it. I know there was a consent issue, which I had a small issue with definitely in the books. I thought they handled it a little bit differently in the TV show, but still a concern. But there's also some other like casting issues and stuff like that were brought up. But overall, I really liked it, and I found it to be a fun read. And a fun watch, and I hope it opens up the door for more historical romance adaptations, because I've been getting into them recently, and I would love more TV series to binge like that. And also, another thing that I finished or caught up on was Stargirl. Here's a photo of the picture. I did not wind up finishing this show over the summer. I was like 2 episodes behind, and it came to HBO Max, so I wound up finishing it. I have to say, this is definitely one of my favorite DC shows right now, other than The Flash. All my other shows are getting like canceled or they're ending unexpectedly, so this one is one that I'm really liking, and I can totally see them kind of transforming the verse a little bit and having a few more shows to kind of build out their verse, and maybe center it around The Flash, which is going to be probably the only DC show left, along with Legends, which I'm really liking. I actually have to catch up on Legends. That's a show I do actually have to catch up on. But I really like it. It's definitely more of like a YA adaptation, which you don't awfully get in the DC universe at all. So I find that to be super fun. And and then one other series that I caught up on because I knew it was coming back was This Is Us season 4. Again, I always love like binge watching these shows because I just like binge watch all like 6 seasons in like a weekend, and that's what I did. And I got to the end of that season and I was like, oh my god, I cannot wait for season 5. And now we're in season 5 and I'm really enjoying it as well. But I also did wind up keep watching, and I'll talk about that in a little bit because that's like the shows that I'm in the middle of section. But yeah, so I also wound up finishing season 4 of This Is Us in preparation for, you know, the future seasons, which I am in the middle of watching now. But yeah, those are the shows that I like caught up on that I was like in the middle of watching. And now we're gonna get into the seasons that I totally gluttonously binged watch. We will get into that right now. But I also did get my both my COVID vaccinations pretty close together. I got them 28 days apart. So I got one in January when I was still home, and then I got my second one at the tail end of when we were said that we were going back. So I had a lot of downtime, especially after my second shot, because I was super tired. So I did a bunch of binge watching. The first show that I sort of binge watched in entirety was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6. This has been on my to-do list for a while. Back when my production of Willy Wonka was up, I like just stopped watching some of my TV shows, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was one of them that I kind of put by the wayside. Season 5 was 23 episodes long, so it was a really, really long season. It took me a good, 4 months to catch up, but I finally just binge-watched the last, 6 episodes, and then I went in immediately and started watching Season 6, which was only 13 episodes, which was a lot easier to binge-watch. So much stuff happened in that season, so many things. They left me on, a massive cliffhanger, and I'm really excited to pick up and complete that season soon. Was definitely one that I was not expecting to go in that direction, but I really wound up enjoying it. And I also, unexpected to me, when I got my COVID shot, I was just trying to find something to rewatch, and none of the comedy shows that I was watching were had thousands of, not thousands, but a lot of episodes to watch. So I wound up doing a really impromptu binge watch of The Big Bang Theory, because it's now all on HBO Max, and I have really loved it. I think I'm on season 5 at this point. And the reason I started my binge watch, because I'm also in the middle of watching Flight Attendant with Kaylee Cuoco, but I was just missing the gang, and I was just missing a fun show to sort of binge watch when I'm home and before I go to bed, because they're just fun, and I just think I kind of need a more relaxing show in the evenings. So I watched the first 5 episodes of Big Bang Theory, and that was a joy to watch. I'm still watching it. That's my my relaxing show, but I did finish about season 5, and I'll probably finish the next couple of seasons and probably in the next month, depending on how much free time I do have. And now I'm going to talk about the TV shows that I'm in the middle of watching, which are either I'm in the middle of binge watching them, or I'm just keeping up to date on the current TV schedule. CW is my most popular network that I'm watching stuff from right now, and I haven't even caught up on the superhero shows that just came out this week. I haven't been watching Batwoman yet. I do want to do that, but I'm just giving myself a couple more weeks before I dive back into that one. I haven't watched Superman and Lois yet, which I desperately want to watch because I really love those 2 actors. I just haven't got around to it yet. But the shows on the CW network that I am currently watching is Walker, Texas Ranger with Jared Padalecki and Keegan Allen. I almost Jensen Ackles. That's not who it is. But I'm really liking that show. I know that some people were not that impressed by it, but it has a really superb cast. It has Lindsay Morgan, and it has Keegan and the guy from Supernatural. I really am liking it. I watched 4 to 5 episodes in a row of that, and I was really intrigued by it. So I'm gonna actually keep watching that one. I'm really liking that one. I also watched a couple of episodes of the newest season of Nancy Drew, which again is eerie, creepy, and right up my alley. I definitely am enjoying that more than I'm enjoying Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I still do want to finish that, but right now that Nancy Drew's back, that is more my creepy style that I'm really liking, and I'm excited to see where that goes. I also did start watching Legacies again. The new season is back, and I'm really liking that one. Again, it is fulfilling my Buffy fantasies, because that is I always need a Buffy related content in my life, and that is giving me all the fields of that, and I'm really liking that one as well. And then the other, I think that might be everything for, yeah, that's everything that I'm watching currently on the CW. And then I'm watching a couple of shows on ABC. I'm watching The Good Doctor, which I fell a little bit farther behind that show, but this season is a little bit different. Obviously, they are dealing with the after effects of the COVID pandemic. They are dealing with the after effects of that one. It's not like Grey's. I know Grey's is the whole season will be the COVID pandemic, but this is sort of like the after effects of the COVID pandemic in a world where that exists. But it's a little bit interesting because you're following. This is I think it's the third or fourth season. I can't remember, but this one there's like a new bunch of people that are like the trainees. So it's, you have, Sean and his crew, and then you have these newbies. That dynamic is super interesting, and they're talking about a lot of like PTSD stuff, and I really am liking it. I love that cast as well. It's super fun. And also just a fun, lighthearted comedy that I'm watching is Call Your Mother with Kira Sedgwick. It also has Joey Bragg, who is in Liv and Maddie, and it's just a really, really fun, lighthearted show that makes me laugh. And another fun-hearted show that I'm watching is Call Me Kat, which has Mayim Bialik in it, which is actually produced by Jim Parsons. Mayim Bialik was in Big Bang Theory with Jim Parsons. They were Amy and Sheldon, and I really am liking that show. Again, such a fun cast of characters that I'm adoring so much, and I fell a little bit farther behind on that show than I would like, but I do want to try to catch up this weekend if possible. And I'm also watching This Is Us, which this new season I am really, really liking, and I can't wait to see what more we get in the drama department, because that show always brings the drama in, the right quality. And speaking of unique shows, I've said before, This Is Us is a very unique show structure, but WandaVision has blown every single show I have been watching out of the water. It is such a unique premise and concept, but it basically follows Wanda and Vision, and that's all I'm going to say. You have to go in sort of blind, know that it is set in the aftermath of Endgame, and that's all I'm going to say. But if you have not been watching it, I highly recommend you do check it out. It's a really, really fun, quick watch, and it is really enjoyable. And I learned today that one of the people that I work with, who I've been trying to get to watch all of the Marvel shows, has finally succumbed, and he is caught up. So now we can talk about it at work, which is super exciting. But those are all of like the shows I'm in the middle of. Another one that I'm in the middle of, but I just haven't finished watching it, is Flight Attendant with Kaylee Cuoco, which is just one that I haven't finished yet, but I do definitely want to finish that soon, because I know that it's getting a second season, and I really did like I'm really liking what I'm watching so far. But those are all the TV shows I'm sort of in the middle of, and now we're going to move on to some other categories like music. First, music listener. I'm so bad at it. I will go through spurts where I won't listen to music for like 6 months, and then I will go through spurts where I'll listen to it for like a week straight. So I really am like so inconsistent, but because everyone was talking about it, I downloaded the newest Taylor Swift album, Evermore, and I have to admit I'm really liking it. I also have been hearing interviews with artists that I have loved, so I think I actually might try to listen to a few more bands. My next one on my list is Billie Eilish. The kids, when I take my hair down, say that I look like her because my hair is dyed green like hers is. But I want to watch her documentary on Apple TV, and I might then actually just sort of download one of her newest albums. I don't know if I will like her music, but I'm intrigued enough about her as like a person to want to check out her music. But I really like Evermore, and I didn't think I would like Taylor Swift's music, but definitely like Champagne Problems is definitely one of my favorite. I also love Pedestal, I think it's called. I think the song is called Pedestal. But I really am liking, and No Body, No Crime. Those were my 3 favorites, but I really am liking that, album. And I hope to listen to more by Taylor Swift in the future. So the next one is I'm going to talk about what my goals entertainment-wise have been. One of my goals that I've noticed is that I've relied a lot on rewatching like old true crime videos. Sorry, I made you guys out of angled. But I realized like halfway through the month that it was just not giving me any like new material because I had rewatched them so often. And normally what I would do is when I was, just getting prepped for school or when I was doing grading and stuff like that, I just sort of had these older true crime videos in the backdrop. And I found out that it was, for me, it just was like, I was like, well, I could be listening to so many audiobooks or listening to new material. So I just sort of cut out re-listening to any true crime videos, except when I'm sleeping. That's what I'm doing. I'm just like when I'm at bed and when I'm like resting and going and kind of, going to bed, I can put one on and that will normally knock me out just because I've heard them 1,000 times. But because of that, I've kind of picked up a few other background TV shows to watch, like when I'm, working out maybe, or when I'm, reading some nonfiction, which I have been trying to get back into. I have, ever since the summer, I have been audiobook listening to nonfiction, but I do have a few books that I do want to read physically. So the book I'm listening to right now is Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's all about habit setting and goal setting, which is something that I really do want to work on this summer. So I just picked up a couple of shows that are just putting on as background noise. One of them is true crime related, and it is this Hotel Cecil on Netflix, and it's about the Elisa Lam mystery disappearance, which I first heard about on like John Lordan's channel and then Stephanie Harlow back a couple years ago, and they did a documentary, which is one that I have been watching. And another really, really fun one on Disney Plus is I think it's called The Magic of Disney Animal Kingdom, which has been like one of those like shows about animals, and I love animals, so I found that to be a really, really fun watch, and I just sort of put it on in the background as I'm reading my nonfiction chapters. And that's just sort of been really, really relaxing to me, and I feel like I'm getting more information than I normally would. And then I always listen to podcasts. Some of the podcasts that I'm most listening to right now is Fandom Buzz from Alexa and Mackie. I listen to MuggleCast and Millennial, which is a podcast gang and bunch of people I've been following since I've been 16 years old. And then some more like, newsy ones is Pod Saves the World and What a Day. What a Day is just a nice 20-minute podcast that kind of sums up all the national headlines in like a 20-minute episode, and I love the two people that lead that. And then Pod Saves the World is a much more politically focused one, and it really looks forward to like 2022 and 2024. And it is hosted by 4 guys that used to work in the Obama White House, and I just think it's an interesting point of view. And they do a lot of fundraising and they do a lot of organizing the whole year, so I want to follow them a little bit more consistently so I can actually help out for 2022 and 2024. But yeah, so this was a much longer video, but I did wind up listening, watching, and enjoying quite a bit. I think that being home these 2 months was a little bit helpful, and it's going to probably change next month when I'm going back full time, but I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite movie or your favorite TV show that you watched, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.